Okay, so you sent us a really great set of sources focusing on men's health. And our plan for this deep dive is basically to boil it all down,
All right.
get you the essential info you need on staying healthy without, making it too overwhelming.
Exactly. We're diving into the main health worries highlighted in these sources for men. It covers quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything from like heart health, cancer risks, even mental well-being, and things like accidental injuries too.
Wow, okay. That's a broad scope.
It is, but it paints a really crucial picture of men's health today.
All right, let's unpack this then. Where should we start? Maybe with something that seems to always top the list. Heart-related diseases. The numbers look pretty stark.
They really are. When you look at what causes the most deaths for men globally and here in the U.S., cardiovascular diseases are right up there.
We're talking heart attacks, strokes, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Heart attacks, strokes, artery problems. The stats show around 697,000 deaths a year in the U.S. alone, and over half of those deaths are men. What's really worth noting is the risk level. More than 1 in 4 adult men face this.
1 in 4. That really makes you stop and think. And I saw something about specific groups having even higher risks.
That's right, yeah. The research points to African American men having a greater chance of developing high blood pressure.
Okay.
And also, just generally for men, that risk tends to climb after age 45.
So early and regular checks seem vital then.
Absolutely vital.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us straight to what we can actually do. The sources really hammer home the importance of regular medical checkups.
How regular?
Well, Hamilton Health suggests ideally every 6 months. Plus, keeping an active watch on your blood pressure.
Okay. And lifestyle stuff too, I assume.
Definitely. The advice that sometimes gets brushed aside, eating more fruits and vegetables.
The basics.
The basics, but they're like key building blocks, right? Providing nutrients, helping regulate blood pressure, reducing inflammation. It all adds up.
Makes sense. Prevention and just being aware seem powerful.
Precisely. They're huge tools for managing heart health. Okay, maybe let's shift focus now to another really significant threat, lung cancer.
Right. This one always sounds particularly worrying because of how quickly it can develop.
It does. Lung cancer is often, tough to treat effectively once it's found, mainly because it spreads so fast.
And the stats reflect that severity.
They do, unfortunately. It actually causes more deaths than any other cancer. And sadly for many, death can come within just a year of diagnosis.
That's grim. And the main cause is, well, it's pretty clear, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Smoking. It's the dominant factor by a huge margin, about 9 out of 10 cases in men.
9 out of 10, wow.
Yeah. And, it's definitely good that smoking rates are falling among men,
That is positive.
but it's still a massive cause of death. Still incredibly significant.
And something that stood out to me was the lack of, reliable early tests for it.
Exactly. That's a crucial point. It puts even more weight on prevention, stopping it before it even starts.
So the message is pretty blunt then.
It is. Quit smoking if you smoke. That's the strongest thing. And if you're a current or even a former heavy smoker, you need regular check-ins with your doctor. Definitely.
Okay, what about other breathing issues, like COPD?
Right, COPD. That stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It includes conditions people might know, like emphysema and chronic bronchitis.
Things that make it just hard to breathe normally?
Precisely.
Yeah.
It basically obstructs your airflow. The common signs are a cough that just won't quit, maybe bringing up extra phlegm, feeling like you can't take a proper deep breath, or getting short of breath easily.
And this is pretty common.
It is. Over 15 million people in the U.S. have it. And interestingly, it's seen more often in former smokers and also in people who identify as multiracial and non-Hispanic.
So again, that smoking link is strong, but other factors can play a part too. Okay, let's switch gears to something specific just to men. Prostate cancer.
Yes. The prostate gland, it sits just in front of the rectum, below the bladder. Its job is making fluid for semen.
And it changes with age.
It does, yeah. It often gets bigger as men get older, which is natural. But prostate cancer itself is very common. Nearly 200,000 new cases diagnosed each year in the U.S.
Making it the most common cancer in men.
That's right. The most frequently diagnosed one.
But, and this seems important, not all cases are necessarily fatal.
Absolutely. That's a really important distinction. Many cases are slow-growing and manageable. The key takeaway here is, as men age, regular checkups are crucial, especially at places equipped for detection.
Early detection again.
Early detection makes a massive difference in treatment success. Okay, next up, liver disease. which sounds like quite a broad category.
Yeah, what falls under that umbrella?
It covers several things, like viral hepatitis that's caused by viruses, liver cancer itself, and also alcoholic liver disease from excessive alcohol use.
And functionally, what goes wrong?
Basically, the liver struggles to do its main jobs, helping digest food properly and, critically, clearing toxins out of your body.
What are the warning signs for liver problems?
Key symptoms to look out for would be things like a swollen abdomen, yellowing of the skin, or eyes that's jaundice, and changes in stool color.
Definitely things you'd want to get checked out. Let's talk about stroke now. You mentioned it earlier under cardiovascular disease, but it warrants its own focus, right?
Agreed. It's so significant. A stroke happens when blood flow to the brain gets cut off. Either an artery gets blocked or one bursts.
And the result is brain damage.
Yes, because brain cells are starved of oxygen and nutrients, they start to die. This can lead to serious disability, or it can be fatal.
And the risk factors sound familiar.
They do. If you look at what increases stroke risk, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, smoking, heavy alcohol use, it overlaps significantly with general heart disease risk.
Shows how connected it all is.
Exactly. It really highlights the interconnectedness of our overall health.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift to a topic that might feel a bit more sensitive, but is really important. Erectile dysfunction, or ED.
Yes, a very important topic. ED is basically when a man consistently can't get or keep an erection firm enough for sex.
And it's about consistency, right?
Yeah.
Not just an occasional thing.
Right. Occasional issues can happen to anyone. That's often normal. But frequent ED, that can be a sign of something else going on underneath.
Something more serious.
Potentially, yes. What's particularly interesting is that ED can actually be an early warning sign for atherosclerosis.
Atherosclerosis, that's the hardening of the artery.
Exactly. Think of it like plaque building up inside pipes, making it harder for blood to flow through. So doctors often see frequent ED as a potential heads up for possible future heart or cardiovascular problems.
Wow, that's a connection many might not make. It's not just about sex drive or performance.
Not at all. It could be signaling a much wider health issue. So the strong advice is if ED is happening frequently, get it checked out by a doctor promptly.
Don't ignore it.
Definitely don't ignore it. You could miss a vital chance for early intervention on something more serious. Okay, let's move to another area needing proactive steps. STIs, sexually transmitted infections.
Right. The CDC numbers on this seem pretty high.
They are quite high. Estimates suggest about 1 in 5 people in the U.S. has an STI. And, maybe surprisingly to some, they're actually more common in men than women.
Really? More common in men.
Yeah. The good news, though, is we have good prevention methods. Vaccines for some, like HPV, and of course, consistently using protection during sex.
And specific advice for some groups?
Yes. For men who are sexually active with other men, the recommendation is for annual testing, just as a routine preventative measure.
Okay, so prevention and testing are the main things there. Next up, diabetes. This affects blood sugar, right?
That's right. Diabetes happens when your blood glucose or blood sugar gets too high. Either your body isn't making enough insulin,
which is the hormone that helps sugar get into cells.
Exactly. Or the body's cells stop responding properly to the insulin that is there that's insulin resistance.
What are the early signs?
Early on, it might be things like needing to pee more often or feeling really thirsty all the time, but it often creeps up slowly.
So you might not know you have it for a while.
That's the danger. Many men don't realize until complications start showing up.
And those complications sound serious.
They can be very serious. Over time, that excess sugar damages blood vessels and nerves. It can lead to strokes, heart attacks, blindness, kidney failure, even amputations, particularly of the lower limbs.
Wow. And is there a particular risk group?
The research highlights that men in the U.S. who are obese or overweight have a significantly higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
But there are things you can do.
Oh yes, lifestyle is key here. Getting at least 30 minutes of exercise most days, eating a balanced diet, these are crucial for both prevention and managing diabetes if you have it.
Good to know. Okay, let's just briefly touch on something more recent, COVID-19.
Right, it's still relevant. The data consistently show that men, on average, had worse outcomes from COVID compared to women.
More severe illness.
Yeah, higher chances of severe symptoms, hospitalization, and unfortunately, a higher risk of death.
But vaccines help change that picture.
Massively. Vaccines have been incredibly effective at reducing the risk of getting severely ill or dying from the virus. A really important public health tool.
Definitely. Okay, shifting focus slightly again. Unintentional injuries. This feels a bit different from diseases.
It does, but it's a major public health concern. It's actually the fourth leading cause of death overall in the U.S.
Fourth. Wow.
Yeah. And what's notable here is that men are statistically more likely to die from these kinds of injuries than women are.
Oh, what sort of injuries are you talking about?
Things like falls, car accidents, accidental poisoning, those sorts of things.
And are they preventable?
Many are, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, some accidents just happen. But being aware of safety measures, wearing seatbelts, being careful around the house to prevent falls, things like that can make a difference. And seeking medical help quickly if you do get injured is also important.
Makes sense. Basic precautions can go a long way. Okay, finally, let's talk about mental health, specifically depression.
Right. Now, the stats might show slightly higher diagnosed rates in women, but depression is very common in men, too. About 6% experience a major depressive episode each year.
6% is still a lot of people.
It is. And what's really crucial to grasp is that depression can look different in men sometimes.
How so?
Instead of, or alongside, obvious sadness, men might show more irritability, anger, maybe act more aggressively or take more risks.
So it might not be recognized as depression.
Exactly. That difference in presentation can lead to it being missed or misdiagnosed. Underdiagnosis is a real issue.
So what's the advice?
The key message is, if you're noticing persistent changes in your mood, your energy, your behavior, don't just brush it off. Reaching out to a doctor or a mental health professional for diagnosis and support is really important.
It sounds vital to kind of challenge those old ideas about what depression should look like in men.
Absolutely. We need more open conversations about men's mental well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. As we pull all this together, the big takeaway seems to be about being proactive, right? Taking action early.
That's exactly it. Tackling these potential health issues early on makes a huge difference to long-term health. And it's good to know resources are out there.
Even if finances are tight.
Yes. Organizations like Hamilton Health, for example, specifically mention they're committed to helping all men, even those with low income or no insurance.
That's really important. So, for you listening, if any of these signs or symptoms we've discussed today rang a bell,
The clear advice is, think about scheduling that checkup. Talk to a medical professional.
right. It seems like paying attention, getting those regular checkups, making some positive lifestyle tweaks, it can all really impact your long-term health as a man.
Absolutely. It can make a world of difference.
Well, this deep dive has definitely pulled out the key points from those sources you shared. Hopefully it gives you a really solid starting point for understanding these top men's health concerns.
Yeah, and maybe it's got you thinking. Which of these areas feels most relevant to your health right now? Perhaps what's just one small, informed step you could take next? Could be looking up more info on one condition, or even just finding out what local preventative care resources are near you. Something to think about.